So we will go for 40 minutes still, if that's okay. If anyone has to leave early, obviously, then you should do. Any questions or thoughts before we start? Fine. So we're going to start with the centering as always. Okay, so you can sit, you can stand, whatever makes you comfortable. And what we're going to do is we're just shut your eyes, and I want you to just notice your breathing. Just pay it some attention. What's going on? Shallow breathing, deep breathing. As you focus, is it getting deeper and more rhythmical? And now as you breathe, what do you notice happening to your shoulders? And maybe your facial muscles. And what can you notice underneath your feet? And what's it doing to your mood? And what are you noticing in terms of sound now? Maybe there's a smell. Or if you're Joanna, you can feel a warm breeze perhaps. And hopefully as you pay attention, more and more information is coming into you. And it's that I want you to focus on. The fact that when you're calm and relaxed, you pick up a lot more information. And the more information you have, the better it is to solve anything that's going on around you. So this is an essential skill, not just for us here, but anywhere in life. And when the going gets tough, maybe just take a minute out and center, and then go back to whatever the issue is. So when you're ready, come back to me. And it's helpful for me to know whether, what you did notice and how you did find that as a centering. Anyone like to kick off? Anyone? So I'll unmute your mics, it's okay.
I found it similar to meditation. I do a lot of meditation.
Can you speak up just a little bit, Rinal?
I was just saying that I found it similar to meditation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Meditation's a way of centering, really. I mean, you see things clearly when you meditate, don't you? You get inspiration and insight. The two processes are very, very closely linked, I think. Yeah?
I think
Anybody else?
For me, there's all this information that's present, but I think if you're not paying attention to it, it's noise, and if you do pay attention to it, it becomes a signal.
Yeah. So when we're on the mat and somebody grabs hold of you, what typically happens? Imagine they grab your wrist. What happens?
For me, two things typically. My awareness goes to the grasp, and I usually tense somewhere in my body, and maybe my breath becomes upper breathing.
Okay. What about you, Calvin? What do you notice when someone grabs your wrist, especially if they grab you hard? Can't hear you, buddy. Can't hear anything. Oh, your mic's not working. I'll leave that one with you while you sort that. Anybody else got any feedback? Joanna? What happens when someone grabs your wrist hard?
Yes, I want to get out of there. immediately.
Sure.
Just like, or
Grab
am I
your wrist
thinking
hard.
about
Grab your
how am I
wrist
going
hard
to
now.
deal with
Everybody
this?
grab it. Where does your attention go? Where does it go?
Here.
It goes to where you're holding, doesn't it? What percentage of your body is this? It's a very small percentage, isn't it? Yet all your attention goes here. And you forget that your shoulders can move and your hips can move and your legs can move. Most people, when they're grabbed suddenly, it's like being a rabbit in the headlights. They don't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank God. So what did you have to say, Calvin? Share.
Oh, yeah. So tense and then response to figure out flight is my typical mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. For most of us, it will be flight or fight, but then, you find you still get stuck. And actually you want to relax and recognize that, oh, this person's holding my wrist. I wonder why that is. And to notice that you can move a lot of your body. So we're going to look at a couple of things that will help you just from those wrist grabs. Okay, so I want you to grab yourself. So grab your wrist, bring it around the back and cut down. So I want you to hold it here, Calvin, sort of almost like you're hugging a baby. Yes, but this is your free hand. So this is, you've got to imagine this is your partner. Hard to do. Bring it up, cut down. Quite hard to hold on, isn't it? You can try and hold on, but it's actually surprisingly hard. Okay, so just remember that. All you need to do is move your fingers and lower. It's a waggling of the wrist as opposed to pushing with the wrist. What you can try now is push. Don't do the waggle. I can't move it now. It's only when I do the waggle, this flexing of the wrist, that I'm able to take it off. Is that common experience amongst you? I'm not just inventing this for myself, I hope.
That's a stone principle, is it? They're down the world.
Yeah,
rock.
kind of. Yes, it is. There's a Japanese phrase for this, and I forgot. It begins with an I, and I've forgotten what it's called. If it comes back to me, I'll let you know. Okay, one other thing I'd like you to try. Okay, so you're going to grab your wrist. So from behind, you're going to grab it, and you're going to try and pull your wrist away from the hand that's holding. Pull as hard as you can. Is anyone having any success? Okay, now, as this wrist holds really hard, can it stop you rotating? In my case, the answer is no. I don't care how hard I hold, it doesn't stop me rotating. Is that common experience for you all?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Nod your heads. Okay, so this time when you're holding really hard, rotate your wrist so that the thin part of your wrist meets where where the thumb and fingers come together, and then take it out. So watch my fingers. I rotate it, and I take it out. Rotate, out. Rotate, out. Is that now very easy? Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay. We're going to be looking at kotagaeshi. And typically when somebody grabs the wrist, people try to pull this out. And there's a sequence of events. You either need to rotate and take it out, and you can be really gentle. The more gentle you are in the rotation, the easier it comes out. So notice I'm going to hold hard, but it doesn't stop the gentle turn of the wrist. I don't have to be hard. It just comes out like a knife through butter. Again, is that common experience? Okay. Or the other one is that you meet your partner's hand and you just gently chop down. You don't need to be violent. If you are violent, you won't get away. just that. Okay? All right. So we're going to do kotagaeshi from the position that somebody's grabbed cross wrist. Yep, so right hand to right hand or left hand to left hand. Now, of course, we're on our own, so we're not going to get the feel of this, but we are going to look at the movement. Okay, so the first thing is, where's my hand? It's on that center line I've been talking about for the last few weeks. Okay, somebody grabs. So what I do is first, I'm going to do it two ways for you. I just turn a bit so that my wrist meets their grabbing hand. Okay, so if you can imagine that, and this, and the butt of the knife is grabbing me, that's the other person's hand. I'm going to get rid of this gap and bring it to the knife and across. And then I'm going to chop down. Like that. So I'm going to close this gap, come to here and chop down. You're going to have to maybe try this afterwards with your own knives to prove whether this works, but it does. So I move from my center, they grab, I turn just a bit and I chop down. And as I do that, I'm going to guide my partner that way. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to come into here. So I'm going to chop down, I'm going to guide the hand away, and then this hand is going to guide along their arm. So if this were their arm, my bokken, my hand slides along until it meets the crease of the wrist. Again, we can practice this ourselves. We can slide along, and when we hit the thumb, it just stops. This is really, really important. Because if you grab, how often have you seen people grab a wrist like that? Yes? Is that common? Where's the energy of that? Down. Okay, do you want to take your partner down or do you want to take them round? You want to take them, well, ultimately you do, but not at that point because it won't work. It won't be enough. If you push my hand down, all you're going to do is take it to my side. You're not going to take my whole body down. Does that make sense? Yeah? You're just going to stop the movement straight away and then they might hit you with the other hand. So you don't want to do that. If you can glide, and you can try it with yourself, you'll see how when it catches, your whole body wants to follow. Yes?
I'm with it.
Right. So if you give your partner a lot of information, they'll react against that, won't they? If you touch them like a spider crawling along their arm, really light touch, you set this confusion going in their head, and there's nothing to respond to, so you don't get any fight back. And especially if you're going with their direction, and remember their direction is forward to grab you, all you're doing is continuing that line. Does that make sense to folk? Okay, so I know we're having to use a bit of imagination. I'm trying to give you some principle here that you don't want to grab, you want to glide, and you want to be respecting where your partner's energy is. If they grabbed you from the front like that, their energy is going to be going forwards, isn't it? Conceivably, they could be pulling back, in which case we'd have to modify the technique. But for the sake of this example, they're trying to push through us. Does that make sense?
It does.
Great, okay. So we take this little movement here to chop down, and as we're doing that, we're swinging around and we're meeting the arm and we're gliding until we meet the wrist. And then we take them in a circle. And just for the sake of argument, I could keep going around in circles, but as I face you, I'm going to stop at this point, right? So they are going to be coming round to this stage. If my hand were by my side as I led them round, so if I'm leading them round here, the only reason they follow is because they've been told they ought to follow the person who's doing the technique. They don't have to. Okay? So again, this is something you can practice. Is you've got a partner that you're able to touch. Stand by them, tell them you don't want them to move, and try to move them when you're in this partner position between you. You're going to struggle to move them. You have to move them into your center and out of your center, their center. When you do that, they need one step at least to get back into balance, which is why we keep going, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A good uke, once they're back in balance, is going to hit you again, isn't he or she? So when they get back into balance, they're standing right in front of you. Their energy should be coming forward to hit you. At that point, you let this hand drop to your front. So it just drops down. Remember, you're connected to their body. So as your hand drops down and their energy is coming forward, what will happen?
Their other hand will get to come into punch.
Yes, but so I'm coming in to punch you that second time, Calvin. I wanted to punch you here or here, and now I'm here.
Right.
Can you see that would happen?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so actually then they've lost balance. So you want that attack because that's the one that's going to throw them. You're going to let them throw that punch because that's what takes them down. This one here just guides as well. It's common to think that the kotagaeshi is this hand pushing hard. So again, just as an experiment, push your hand hard. It's a bit uncomfortable on the wrist, isn't it?
Yes.
But do you have to go down? Or can your elbow hold you up?
No.
Can't it? So instead of pushing down, now just let the weight of your hand fall on top of this one. It goes down real easy, doesn't it? Because there's nothing to resist. You're just going with gravity. That's really hard to stop because there's no sudden build-up of pressure. If you push me down, I will push up. That's the usual reaction. But if this just falls, it just goes. So our feeling as they come round the front is to let our hands fall as they enter. Now imagine you're connected to your partner. If your hands reach here, where's their body going to be? It's going to be on the floor, isn't it? Do we agree? Okay. Am I just going to stand here like a lemon when I've done that?
No.
Probably not. So I imagine they're in the book there. I might walk out this side, or I might go in to do something else. But I wouldn't just stand there because then they could stand up and attack me again. They could kick me, all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So am I making sense so far?
You are.
Good. Okay, so let's try and put the whole thing together. We're starting here. There's a slight movement to meet our partner as they grab cross wrist, and we're doing this cut down. And then we swing back the other way, and as we do that, we glide down the arm. We let our left hand meet our center line. We guide them round, we wait, and we let our hands fall. Okay, so now we'll try it on the other side. So now my right foot is forward. I move slightly to the right. I cut down. Sorry, I should have my left hand foot forward, I think. And left foot forward because we did the right, or at least I did the right. Do your opposite one. I turn slightly to the left. I cut down. I glide in with my right hand. It meets my center line. I keep turning until I'm ready to stop. As they come to face me, I drop my hands down in front of me. So, The key learning points are, don't do kotagaeshi out here. Do it from there. Second key learning point, don't grab your partner. Learn to follow the direction of their arm until you meet the end. It will always stop when you hit that little crease in the wrist. It's a wonderful system, it really is. Then you're truly connected and it's easy to guide them. Third big tip, don't panic. So don't turn back to do the technique, because then you're doing to them what they did to you. You're doing something to them. You're no longer blending. Wait for them to come round, let their energy be right in front of you and be brave enough to let them enter, because as they enter, that's what's going to throw them. Any questions? Okay, method number 2, okay? It's going to be exactly the same, except this time, instead of this turn and cut down, you're going to rotate your wrist and you're going to take your hand out. But you won't take it out like that. What you'll do is you'll take it out like that by turning from your center. Yes? So turn and from your center. And whilst you're doing that, you've got this hand coming to blend with the other one. This is now free to guide them round and complete our technique. This is probably the more standard and conventional way of doing this. So, they grab your wrist. You're going to be doing 2 things at the same time, but we'll break them down into 2. One is turn, and as you're doing that, you will be stepping in and beginning to complete this circle to blend with their arm. As you take out, this glides down the arm. My left hand is now in front of my center line. I rotate, I wait, I drop. Does this feel nice and fluid? And can you see why? We're looking for a continuous line here. Okay, I'm trying to build it up in dot-to-dot points for you, but obviously it's all happening as one big flow. So, the turn of the wrist combines with the stepping in. The taking your hand out comes from you turning your hip and you're gliding down. Now my hand is in front of my center line. I guide them around until I'm ready. Then I will stop. My hands are still in front of me. As they round the corner and they attempt to attack me again, now I can put the technique on. Or rather, they put the technique on themselves. Sorry, that's bad language. We're looking, ideally, for our partner to apply the technique to themselves, not for us to have to do it. Good? Any questions on that? Okay, so now, if you want some homework, go and find kotagaeshi done on the mat. Notice how many people have their hands here. Notice how many times people smash their hand down to grab, and notice how often they go to apply the technique. Now, I'm not saying that martially that won't work. What I'm saying is it's not Aikido, because you're doing something to them just as they were doing something to you, and we're trying to make 1 and 1 make 2, or me and you make us, rather than my one's bigger than your one. Does that make sense? Okay. So the next thing I'd like to look at is actually a sword cut. So if you've got a bokken, great. And if you haven't, what you can do is you can place your left hand in the middle of your palm like that. Okay, and imagine that you had a sword. When we take a stance, where do our hands go? Where are they pointing? Oh, we've got you in stereo now, Joanna. Where are our hands facing? Forwards, down, to the sides, what? Forwards. Yes. Why do we point them forwards? Calvin, why do we point our hands forwards?
This is our space. It's our front line of, or last line or front line of our defense of our space.
Yeah, okay. Let me make it very visual for you. Do you think you can attack me now? You've got a chance, haven't you? Because there's nothing pointing at you.
Yes.
What about now?
Harder.
It's harder, isn't it? It's going to make you think before you proceed.
Yes.
Now, in the end, in Aikido, what we want to be able to do is we do want to just be able to stand in an open way, but we're sending our energy forwards and we're looking very confident. And so someone's thinking, well, he looks very confident. I'm not so sure I want to enter that space. And that confidence should be backed up by our technical skill.
Yes.
So it will work. But we have to practice that sort of energy flow initially with our body. So we have our hands in front of us like this. Yes? Okay. So when I watch people do bokken katas, very often I see this. What's wrong with that?
The movement in your lower body. It's all upper body.
Yeah, it is all upper body. I'll try and make that bit better. Because I was concentrating on the sword. What don't I like about that?
You're off your vertical line.
I am off my vertical line, but the main thing I want to notice is look at the angle of my sword. And we said that that was no good. This is only marginally better. There's a big opportunity there, isn't there? To attack.
Yes.
So when I finish, I want to finish there. What do you notice about my sword?
Still keeping that line of space away from you. A pointy edge.
It's parallel to the ground, isn't it? Did you notice that?
Yes.
Right. Exactly the same as our hands when we take a stance, isn't it? They're kind of parallel to the ground. So when we drop our hands down, it shouldn't suddenly go like that. It should stay parallel to the ground. If we keep that, then the shape will be right. The secret with a bokken is not to cut. It's to let the sword fall. Gravity will sort it for you. You're just connected to it. So if you haven't got the sword, remember you can put your palm in your palm. So all I do is lift my arms up and drop. And my way of practicing this is actually to let go at this point. My fingers, I'm holding it, but I've let go with my fingers. And then I catch it on the way down. And I do that because I know the sword will fall in a straight line. And I know that doing it that way, I won't encourage myself to use muscle power. I'll use the sword. And when I get the idea of letting the sword do the work, like any good tool, you let the tool do the work. Whenever I play golf, they say, stop trying to hit the damn ball, let the golf club do the work. When I've got used to that idea, then I allow my fingers to go round. And then I put a bit more intent into it. So it's not muscle power, my arms are still nice and soft. But I put a lot of intention downwards because I want my cut to go down. So let's just try that. You can do it with your arms, you can do it with a bokken. But I want you to notice how it feels. How does it feel in your whole body? Does it feel centered? Is it a centered expression of you? Are you grounded? What's happening with your breath as you do this? So normally as you cut, the breath goes out. So as I say those words, I know I'm forcing breath out. So you can do it. Breath in as you lift, Breath out as you drop. Up, down, down. And I can say down, and that's where my attention will go. And when I finish, I hope you're going to report that my back is straight, my sword is parallel to the ground, and that there's fairly even distribution of weight, at least as it appears to you guys. Okay, so let's just take a quick bit of feedback from you. What did you notice?
Just wondering, since I hadn't made an equivalence, I wonder if this is fatuous, but is there an equivalence between the bokken or the tool and a yuki in that sense that you let them do the work?
Exactly. Yes. So my teacher said to me that your bokken is your teacher. When you've got nobody else, your bokken is your teacher. And yes, it's exactly that. When you've got an uke, it's their energy that is driving everything from that point. You don't have to put anything in, you just have to take what they give you. If you drop something, that too has energy and you can use that as well. You can guide that.
Yeah, there was an air quality to the strike when focusing on that, because it just sort of, like you said, you felt the bokken do the work, so it was just a sweet cut in the air.
Yes.
When I got excited, I put a little muscle into it, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm sweating for no reason." So
yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you what we'll do now. We'll try doing the cutting again this time, but this time you're really going to try and use your shoulders and your arms to put some power into this. Okay, so we're going to break everything I've just said, and we're gonna freaking well hit this hard. Okay, use our muscles. How many of these cuts do you want to do? I'm good with about 6. So how does that feel by comparison?
A lot of drooling, and
it's hard work, isn't it?
So much tension in the arms.
Oh, yeah, it really is. My shoulders are aching a bit now, just after 6 cuts. How much control do you think I had on my sword when I was doing it?
it was jagged.
Didn't
Yeah,
have
you're
any.
right. It woggles all over the place. I've got no way of stopping it in the right place. So if it goes too far down, remember, I'm open again to being attacked. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's allow ourselves to go back to the good thing. Let's let the sword do the work. This time, maybe just slow it down a little bit and see if you can notice what's going on with your balance. What's the posture of your... So, Joe, you need to shift your weight as you do the cut. Watch. This is what you're doing. This is okay, but notice the difference when you do this. You shift your hips forward. You'll feel a lot more balanced and a lot more in control of your sword. Okay, now you're still letting your wrists turn. So Joe, what you're doing is you're letting your wrists point to the floor. Keep your wrists pointing in front. Forget that you've got a sword and imagine you're just lifting your hands up and coming back into posture. So that always you're mindful of the person in front of you. And you want your energy to go straight to them for the moment. Okay, if I made you do 100 of these, it would be all right, wouldn't it? Yeah, that looks much better, Joe. Much, much better. Wow, that's a transformation. You could teach this now.
You know, my internet is very stable and unstable, but this bokken that I have is very heavy. And I usually struggle a lot to stop it.
Yeah.
Just my effort was in my shoulders just to stop it at some point because I was doing this now.
So you don't have to. So when you got a knife and fork in your hand, you never think about the knife and fork. You just think about the food on the plate and you put it in your mouth. Same with the sword, really. Don't think about the sword. Just think about the end of the sword and how you're moving it up and down. And you're connected to it. Yep, so put your mind at the end of the sword and imagine you lift it up to the sky, drop it parallel. And you let it do the work. And then you don't have to think about stopping it. It naturally stops as your hand reaches your side. So you'll notice that as I finish, my hands end up back in front of my center, not here. So if your cup finishes out there, just notice what's going on in your shoulders and how uncomfortable that feels compared to letting your hands fall back to your center. That's better. That's really good, Joe. Did you notice the big difference? Yes. Big difference.
The shoulder.
How are your
The point
shoulders?
my shoulder, just my shoulder rests in my shoulder blades. It's not the
Okay.
sphere itself.
Maybe you're lifting too high. So again, okay, there are many, many schools of swordsmanship, and I don't try to pretend I'm a great sword expert. I don't. But to me, this makes no sense because you're open. You might be able to get more power because there's more, velocity and a longer curve. But at the point that you go behind your head, there's a moment when you're open. And I can't go any further than that without, I can't get it down my back without coming to there. And I can feel tension in my shoulders, I know my elbows are pointing up in the air, and I know right now, if someone were to thrust in, I'm in trouble. So I only ever lift to here. Okay, so my sword is pointing to the sky, my elbows are in front of me, and I'm not really open because if they come in now, I can just drop. So
One of the things I'm noticing.
You'll get sword masters who will tell you something completely different, and that's fine because at the end of the day, you'll determine what's right for you. My guide always is what my body tells me. And my body tells me that going behind my head is stupid. To me, it's just stupid. So
well, if you imagine you've got a samurai helmet, you wouldn't go past the rim of the helmet.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So why take it above that? Because you lose everything.
Yeah. So Joe, the lesson for you is where can you lift to without feeling your shoulders?
Yeah.
So there'll come a point where you just have to go a bit beyond and you start to notice them coming into play.
Yeah.
Okay? And you don't want to notice them. There should be no feeling in this. You want to be operating in that sweet zone between where your hands drop to and where you can lift them to without effort. I can lift them further, but I have to use muscle now. I have to make a bit of an effort. But here, easy. Boom, I just can almost flip my hand up to there. And that's all I need, really. Yeah? So, is this applicable to anything else we do in Aikido? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so how many times are we dropping our hand down onto our partner to take them towards the ground? Ikkyo is a case in point. We lift up, we drop down. Kotagaeshi, we lift down and up and down. It's the same feeling of flow, the same idea that we don't want to be feeling our shoulders. We don't want to be doing this with muscle. We don't want to clash with our partner. Yeah. So when we're doing a drop, say from Kotagaeshi, make sure that you drop on the crease, on the elbow, on the wrist, maybe from the tips of the fingertips, or maybe even in the crease of the shoulder. You might go for those points. Don't hit the meaty, bony bits in between. All you'll do is get a clash. It's not effective. Again, you can try this. You can put one finger in and lightly see what happens. You can put one finger there and lightly, nothing will happen. You can try it really, really heavily, nothing will happen. But when you go in these creases, my elbow goes down. Again, there are a few things I've noticed in Aikido which people never talk about. One is this wrist, using this wrist to turn and apply a lot of techniques. And the other one is that these places are very vulnerable. It's not emphasized a lot. Yeah. So you want always, when you're doing your ikkyo, you want to get your thumb into there. You don't want to just grab any old how. You can't see from the camera. I will always get my thumb in there. I keep going up until it won't go up any further. So that's quite a good one to try, actually. So I want you just to guide up the arm until it won't go any further. Now, that's called a block, Joe. If I can't go up, what direction do I go in now? Yes. So we know exactly how far to go up because it stops, and then we go down. And you can either guide it through the elbow or you can guide it through the fingers. Yeah. So wherever you choose to put your energy, you can either take it from the fingertips, or you can take it from the wrist, or you can take it from the elbow. And they will all work. But remember, down is down, it's not forward. Okay, the fact that their body falls forward is because they can't concertina into a tiny little block. Their body will go 6 feet forward, but your energy goes straight down. You just happen to be connected and you're following. Does that make sense?
It does.
Good. Okay.
So Clinton, you go down, but you can walk forward while you're going down, right?
Yes. So my ikkyo will look something like this. It will look something like that. So my arms only operate in this plane. I'm never reaching out for them. I'm not doing that at all. Always keeping an eye straight back. Always keeping my feeling light. Always staying connected with my partner for as long as possible. Always making sure I'm comfortable. So if I'm working with somebody who's 6'6", I don't want to be doing this. That's no good. I lift as far as I'm comfortable. And if that's only as far as their elbow, as long as they can't come down, I'm happy. Okay, it might mean that I have to throw them this way as opposed to that way. Because you've got to adjust, haven't you? So when you're working with somebody really small, there's no point trying to lift them up beyond their height. You just need to take them to the point where they want to come down. Yes? Makes sense, doesn't it? Okay.
That's where a big guy like me has to figure out leg strength, because I'm trying to use those knees and ankles to get under their center so I can raise them up and not rocket them out.
Yeah. You probably do have to, you've got to be aware, haven't you, and quite sensitive that you don't blow people away just with your mass. Okay. But you can, as I say, you can just practice with yourself. You know, at what point do you want to stop? And if you've got an obliging son or someone you can work with, you can just, well, where does this stop? Why am I trying to take it any further than that? And then you'll always get it right. It's what you feel. It's not because this is the way ikkyo is done. Yeah. So there are some key ideas that are really important that any good Aikido teacher should be teaching. But there's always the moment, and there's always the difference in the person you're practicing with. There's always a difference in the energy they're giving you. And you have to feel what's going on in that moment, not what you thought was going to happen or what you hoped would happen, but what actually is happening. If they stop attacking, you don't need to defend any longer. It's as simple as that. You can just say, well, there you go, we've resolved it. Okay, so thoughts, questions, and failing that, we'll kind of call that a day, I think.
Thank you, Sensei. That's a great reminder or fundamental. If I ever knew, I feel like I'm remembering for the first time, but just that guiding is more powerful than pushing. You know,
Right.
that's difficult
nice
to many.
You know what? Aikido is incredibly simple, but very, very hard as well, because we let our minds get in the way. But if you listen, this is one of the reasons I'm doing these sessions, is because I want you to listen to your body. And when you start listening to your body, you'll start listening to somebody else's. But if you're not hearing your own noise, how on earth can you hear anybody else's? Yeah. And it doesn't really matter whether you're talking about in an Aikido setting or you're talking about a conversation. You know, you should be observing that you don't feel comfortable in this situation and do something to make yourself feel comfortable. It could be, don't go in that bar, go to another one. Yeah. You should be paying attention to what, I mean, if there's things you can do, like, well, maybe if I just breathe for a bit, I'm going to feel a bit more confident and relaxed here, and I can give this a go. You've got to be there in the moment and make those decisions based on really what's happening in front of you to give your best performance. You're working on something for young lads to sort of, you know, become leaders. Well, they can't go into a room shaking like this. They've got to have some techniques that are going to help them just calm down and become centered and be able to talk to another human being like they're a human being.
Right.
Yeah. So everything we learn on the mat, it's a metaphor for something that we do off the mat. Yeah. So it may sound weird to say, well, you should be operating from your center line, but when you have a conversation with somebody, it has a different import when I'm facing you like this than if I talk to you like that. You'd think I was bonkers, wouldn't you? You probably do now. Yeah, so you line up with somebody when you really want to have an important conversation. Or maybe you come to their side and you join with them as you have that conversation. There's a coming together, though, of energies. All right. So unless you've got any other points or comments, we'll call that a day. I hope that was helpful. We'll bow out and off we jolly well go.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this time.
My pleasure. I'm sorry you had difficulties getting in. I blame you. I didn't change anything.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers, Patrick. Lovely to see you. Bye, everyone.